I'm going to pass that over to Annabelle.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you so much for joining us today for this music photography live shoot. As you can see, I am streaming out of my car right now because we are on location in a parking lot in Los Angeles to do this awesome shoot with my really good friends in a metal band in LA called Fate Destroyed. So without further ado, I'm going to call them over to introduce themselves and we'll get started. Come on over, say hello to the world.
Hey guys, come on over. Hey, what's up? My name is Francesca Destruct, and these are my band members. Come over here and introduce yourselves, please.
Looks like I'm going first.
You're going first.
Hello, everyone. I'm Johnny Law.
And he plays guitar.
I'm Roger. I also play guitar. I'm Cameron. I play drums.
He plays drums.
Nathan Youngblood, bass.
Yep, and that's basically all of us.
That's all you need to know, guys.
It's the gang. The whole gang's here.
You can find us basically anywhere you stream music. We also are on Facebook, so it's like facebook.com/Fate Destroyed. We're on Instagram. We're on Spotify, Deezer, Amazon Music, literally anywhere you listen to music, Apple Music, you can check us out. So yeah.
Perfect. Then I'm going to line you guys right behind me, right over there. And I will chat about the equipment that I am using today. So today I have the Sigma 35mm f1.2 DGDN lens on me. I paired it with my Sony Alpha 7R4. Some of the different lenses that I really love to use for music photography are the 24 to 70mm lens, the 28 to 70mm lens, the 85 1.4mm lens, and of course the 35. And the reason that I brought the 35 today is because our location is a little bit wider, so I will be using it to get full band shots, and I will also be using it to get really nice tight up close portraits. And although this location doesn't look like much on the webcam and might not even look like much when you actually show up to it, what I'm looking for whenever I photograph bands is a location that has the colors that I'm looking for and the textures. Because this is an f1.2 lens, and I really love to shoot in very shallow depth of field because it allows the band members to kind of separate from the background, not be overwhelmed by the location. At that point, I am looking for spots that do have a lot of texture because they are a metal band, and based on the way that they are dressed, an urban parking lot turned out to be an absolutely excellent location for this particular shoot, especially because if you see behind me, we do have some interesting colors here. We have a wall that has black on it. We have a wall that has some tan on it, and the tans are actually colors that I am able to modify whenever I bump all the photos into Lightroom. At the end of this session, I will be putting the photos on the computer and showing you a little bit of my workflow when I do put things into Lightroom. And the way that I'm going to start out is I'm going to take the lens and turn it over to, I would say, an f1.8, which you can do with the nifty dial on the lens itself. It does have an aperture ring, so you're able to control that on the lens and not on the camera body itself. So I'm going to start with about an f1.8 as I do the full group shots, and then when I do the individual solos, I will switch it back to an f1.2 because I really do love how incredibly shallow everything looks. So before I do get them started, and so you're able to hear me, I'm going to adjust the settings and then tell you the exact settings that I'm shooting at right now. Because of the time change, the sun is still pretty high up, which is why we're trying to congregate in this one little corner that is nice and shadowed, because I don't have an assistant with me today, so I don't have anyone to hold my reflector that I usually use. But in the meantime, we will just be using the little shadowed area. So I'm doing a little test on these settings.
Yeah, that's drippy.
You guys are good. Sorry. So there we go. Okay, so my settings are f1.8. We're having a shutter speed of about 3200 right now, and the ISO is sitting at 100 because, of course, it is a really bright day. The reason that I made the shutter speed 3200 is because I really like the kind of contrast that you can see when you photograph them against the really black backdrop. I'm going to try and make the backdrop quite dark and make sure that they really pop out of it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and line them up. and start shooting, and hopefully
Okay,
you'll be able to see the exact corner that I am shooting them in. And the way that I usually line up a band is I tell them that the way that they stand on stage, minus the drummer who we're going to put on either side, is the way that I'm going to line them up for the shot. Okay, let's make sure they can still see this whole situation. Perfect. So I'm going to shoot you guys right over here. Perfect. And then on this way. Okay, now I'm going to pop you more in the middle. Good. You are a 5-piece band, which makes it a lot easier to find. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can see that exact line up. There we go. So as I just said, they are a 5-piece band, so it does make them a little bit easier to line up because of course you're going to have the front woman or the front man right in the center and the rest pose on either side. Now, because I am still using a shallow aperture and a shallow depth of field, you might be wondering how I'm going to get all of the band members in focus. Well, the real trick for using a shallow depth of field is your proximity to the subject. The further away you move from your subject, the more they're going to sit better on the focus line, in which case you'll be able to get a lot more of them in focus, even with very shallow depths of field. This can even be achieved at f1.2, but because I don't want to step too far out of frame so you can't see me, I am going to shoot an f1.8 because it allows me to stand a little bit closer. So without further ado, perfect. All the trash and stuff everywhere. Excellent. That actually looks wicked. So on the count of 3, you guys can just continuously move.
Continuously move?
Yep.
Okay,
So
cool.
you have a very fast camera, which is going to fire off right off the bat.
That's awesome. Okay.
So go for it. Excellent. Perfect. All right, I'm going to scooch up a little bit closer. Perfect. Yes. Excellent.
Am I allowed to crouch down or do I need to stay at the
No,
side?
you can crouch down. Perfect. Excellent. I like the wind blowing through your hair.
Me? Well, thank you. I think you're talking to her.
No,
No, it's not you.
Oh,
It was very majestic. Yes, excellent. Perfect. Perfect. So, to chat a little bit more about what I just did, I set my camera on to burst mode or high-speed continuous shooting, which allows me to take multiple frames as they move. I always direct the band to just continuously move because I find that band members do feel a lot more comfy with that. And as well as that, it gives them a large variety of poses they can work with. You really do want them to keep interacting with one another. You probably saw at one point that Francesca crouched down. It creates a really cool composition when she gets a little bit lower and the other band members lean forward. As well as that, we did have a really nice breeze come through, so we were able to get a lot of movement in the hair. But whenever you photograph bands, feel welcome to tell them that they can just keep on moving and you just keep on snapping anytime you see something. If you need them to slow down, of course, you can always tell them to stop and hold a pose. But in general, I do like this consistent movement. And if you find that a band can't figure out what they want to do, you see them slowing down with poses, feel welcome to continuously yell some ideas to them. A lot of ideas that I really like are just plain interaction with one another. If you have a lot less band members, then instead of putting the singer directly in the middle, because say you have 4 band members or 6, feel welcome to do a little bit of a circle or a reverse V. I'll show you that arrangement in just a moment. Oh, you changed that. Yeah. So I'm going to show them how we do the V arrangement.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're going to do a V away from me, and then we're going to do one towards me.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the U.
Ow!
Oh, are you good?
Yeah, I hurt me.
when wardrobe strikes back.
Always.
Should I do the shrug or no shrug? Because I kind of like the tattoos, and I feel like you couldn't see the last one, so maybe without the shrug.
Can you do both?
Yeah, we can do both.
Okay, let me do some without the shrug and then with.
That's my
You want me to hold it?
indecisiveness. Don't make me pick one. Let's just do it all.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. I was like, don't put that on.
Which be this way.
We're going to do it away from me first.
So this way first.
So you push back.
Yeah, I go to the back.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
guys go to the back.
you scoot that way, making sure you're nicely in frame. Okay, everyone can still see that. A little bit tighter.
Tight butthole, guys.
A little bit tighter.
Sorry.
Perfect. Excellent. Perfect.
Moving.
Yes.
Keep doing that. Perfect. And now I'm gonna get a little bit closer and you guys are all gonna lean over me. Yes, a little bit more down. Yeah. It's okay if you push each other a little bit.
What is this glamour shot thing Roger's doing? Hold on.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Don't look at my kneecap.
Oh, I'll do it too. I'll do it too.
You guys are so
Let's all do it.
I'm not doing this.
Perfect. Excellent. And now we're gonna do the V in the other direction. You are up front.
Reverse V.
See, I'm gonna push you guys back this
I'm gonna greet Roger like that.
That's gonna be our new band sign.
As it should be, start every show with that. And you turn this way. Yes, there we go. Trying to keep and you a little bit closer. Yeah, we're trying to keep it all even. Perfect. So for this V shape, I'm actually going to move my aperture up to about a 3.2 at that point, because again, I don't want to get too terribly out of frame, because if I were to shoot with a much wider aperture, I would have to move myself further back to make sure everyone is nicely in focus. There we go. You're blocking. Sorry. There we go. No one is allowed to be blocked. Everyone must be seen. Perfect. Excellent. Let's shoot that a little bit more on this side because I want more of the black wall. So we're just
I'll just pivot the whole
Yeah.
time.
Pivoting.
Pivot. Everybody pivot.
and little step back. Little step back. There we go. Everyone took a very different step back. You two
Yeah, we
go
all
further
gotta-
back. Yeah. So try to be parallel with one another, except you.
Yeah, I'm in front.
Yes.
Also,
Hold
like,
back
I
there.
can parallel.
Yeah.
So,
A little bit.
back.
But closer. Oh, sorry. Closer in. I
Yeah. A
think,
little
right?
bit tighter together.
Tighter together.
You two a little tighter together. It's like one side of you doesn't want to be the other side. Like you don't want to get close.
It's the hats versus the long hairs. Is what it is.
Yes.
Long hairs never hang with hats. I don't know. What is that? Never mind. Tried to do a Land Before Time one. It didn't work.
Oh. Perfect. Perfect. Excellent. Moving around and get even closer to each other. Tight, tight, tight. Yes. Perfect. Excellent.
Sweet.
You guys ready for some solos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Does anyone have any instruments they want to solo shot with?
Didn't bring any.
I brought mine.
Yeah, we'll let Nick go first with the first one.
Yeah. Go get it. So now that we've done that, we're gonna go ahead and shoot some solo shots. So again, I did have to raise my aperture a little bit because I wanted to make sure that all the band members would be nicely in focus because they were not standing on the same field. But as you can see, I just continuously move them back and forth as I shoot to ensure that I get a nice variety. But now that we are going to do solos and we're gonna go solos in the same exact spot, I'm going to switch my lens back to an f1.2 because again, that is my absolute favorite aperture, and that is the aperture that I really love to shoot portraits in because they do become incredibly dramatic. And we are very lucky that this band already has a really great idea on the way that they want to pose. But as you were watching them pose, you can get some ideas of how to direct some of the musicians that you know in terms of posing. So there's grabbing their stuff and we will get right to it. Oh, and as well as that, of course, with the Sony Alpha cameras, they do have face recognition eye tracking, which I do have active right now, which does make it significantly easier. But if you are not sitting on a Sony, if you're using Canon or whatnot, I usually move it to continuous autofocus because even though the subjects are not moving too much, they're not moving as much as say an animal would, I still like to have continuous autofocus to ensure that the camera consistently refocuses on their movement, even if the movements are pretty subtle. So it looks like we have our first solo contender. I'm gonna go ahead, and again, I moved it to an f1.2. Just gonna do a little lighting check to see how I need to adjust everything else. Because we just opened up the aperture so much, I am raising my shutter speed. That's just a little test shot. There we go. I raise it all the way up to 8,000, and I'm going to keep it at 100 because for those that are not shooting with mirrorless systems, you may be limited to an ISO of 100. So I'm just going to keep it on 100 so you're able to see how you can still work with a really wide aperture on settings such as that. So without further ado, we have a beautiful, beautiful instrument to play with. So keep on watching. Perfect. Make sure you're nicely in frame. Perfect. And it's speaking a teeny bit more corner-wise, so everyone can see.
Scanning one spot.
Yeah. But you're just gonna keep moving it around. You ready, Eddie? Perfect. Yes.
Well, and then also like
Push it towards me. Yeah. Pull that base all the way over here. Perfect. That is excellent. Nice. Good. Yes. Excellent. Perfect. Hold that.
Yeah.
That looks amazing. Perfect. You want to put it on your shoulder?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was still holding it for you.
Perfect.
Up or down?
On your shoulder. Yeah, I know it's not the comfiest shape for that,
Try
but
to get the knee.
there we
Just
go.
tell me where.
That is perfect. I'm gonna scoot you a little bit more this way because I want you right on the black. There we go. Yes. Perfect. Excellent. And now, if you can, it's not too heavy, push your whole upper half towards the lens. Like really lean into it.
Keep it up, or what do you want me to do?
You can keep it on, yeah, you can keep it like that. Just lean your whole half right into it. Yes. Down. Perfect. Oh, that looks so wicked. Perfect. Yes. Keep playing with it. You're gonna have a lot of shots to look through. Perfect. And we got it. Perfect. So again, as you saw, a really, really big range of movement with that beautiful base. And we did get lucky that base is a bit more of a matte texture, so you're not actually getting the reflections on it as much as you might on different types of instruments. And if you do see that you're getting a reflection, all you have to do is you take that instrument and you push it forward. You're not actually like physically pushing it forward like this. You're actually kind of tilting it forward a little bit because that removes a lot of the glare that it might have. And you really don't want a lot of them to get that glare because the main place they tend to get that glare is the headstock, and that's where the brand name is. And for the most part, musicians get photographed with their musical instruments and they want the brand to show because they might be endorsed by it or they might be pursuing a sponsorship from that company. So you want to make sure that the brand name is always really beautifully visible. Now we're going to continue on with doing the portrait. So who wants to go next?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can go. Okay.
Get it over with.
I'll just,
Do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
The sooner I do it, the sooner I don't have to do it.
Oh, it won't. I don't buy it. So I'm going to scoot this a little bit closer. They're perfect. Do a nice little lighting test. Make sure nothing's changed. Perfect. Nice glare. Was
Make me
that a smile I got
Making
out
me
of you?
smile for pictures. What is this?
That's going all over Facebook. That you actually smile.
That's fun. It's the proof is here today.
Yes.
I do one like looking off or something.
I was actually supposed to do that.
I don't think
Perfect. Yes. I like tattoo invisible. If you want, you can.
try like an arm post.
Yeah, you can actually grab kind of the top, or you can kind of. Yes.
Sleeves are always trying to come down. Like that.
Yes. There we go. Perfect. We do like tattoos visible. You got them for a reason.
They're expensive.
Yep. And you show them up. And look that way. That other side. Yes.
I love her photographer stance. You all
It's
stand
photography yoga.
You all stand the same ways. It's really funny, except for Jeremy. Jeremy stands different. But
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Time for yoga. Perfect. Now I'm going to have you lean right into the lens. With as much as you can. And chin up. Perfect. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. So once more with this one, we had a little bit more leaning into the lens. The reason that I really love leans into the lens is because it does create a really cool body posture. But whenever you have someone leaning into your lens, make sure that the chins go up. Otherwise, their face gets a little too down. And it's a little too forehead heavy. So you do want to pick the chins up quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the next person for solo shots. Who's next for solos?
We're getting off bridges up.
You are all good.
Skinny legs, fat tummy.
No.
Hands don't stay up. We just slide down underneath the buffet.
No.
Oh, I've been working on it though. Trying to make it more apparent, if you can
Trying to make
tell.
it more apparent.
Yeah.
Actually, I like your white stance. Yeah, wider stances, fuller stances. There's keys in your pocket.
Thanks.
Yes. They'll fit in my pocket.
I just usually have the little backing now.
Yeah, there we go. We don't lose any keys around. Perfect. Oh, big thing. Keys out of pocket. That is so difficult to Photoshop. Make sure all keys and phones not in pockets.
Oh, I have a phone too.
Oh, it's in the back. It's fine.
Okay, cool.
If it was in the front, then that would be just a big bulge. Perfect. I like the white stance. Yes, excellent. Doing that. Perfect. I'm going to see you just a little bit over here because there's like a little cut in the line. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. That looks absolutely excellent. Perfect. Excellent. Since you do have the hair, I'm going to take advantage of it. You want to do a shot where you're kind of moshing as your hair comes up around.
Like how? Just doing like, okay.
Yeah. So the trick to that is make sure that you try to keep your facial expression the way you want it to be, and you look at the lens.
Looking at the lens as it's coming up.
So it's going to be a little difficult.
Yes.
You can do a few test shots. Yeah. Yes.
Like that?
Excellent.
Okay.
You ready? It's going to be on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. I know it feels weird.
No, I'll do a couple. I feel like I'm in one of those Garnier commercials.
I mean,
It's like, I'm worth it.
yeah.
Give me the count. Give me the count.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
It's fun.
Hey, it's sponsorship there.
But yeah.
Excellent. Your hair falls really cool after you do that.
What's that?
Your hair falls really cool after you do that. So yeah, there we go. Perfect. Excellent. Got you.
I'm not photogenic. I don't
No,
think
yes you are.
Is that, I'm good? Okay.
Okay.
Yep, I'm gonna go home at some point.
Perfect. So there you could see a little bit of head banging. I really wanted to get shots of the hair moving. Whenever you do have a musician with long, luscious hair, definitely take advantage of that and make sure that you are able to capture all of it in nice movement, as well as that. Even if you don't do a music shoot and someone has long hair, I really do like them to do at least one little hair flip, not just to shoot at, but because the way the hair falls directly after that always looks really, really cool, and it gives it a lot of kind of texture and it gives it volume, and you can actually see the kind of the individual strands of each piece of hair. Even though with high quality equipment like this, especially with the Sigma lenses and their absolutely superb sharpness, you are able to see every little strand of hair, so that is pretty cool. Now I'm going to grab the next one for more solo shots.
Actually,
My next picture.
We literally have the same exact jacket. That's great.
no, it's literally the same.
Almost.
Oh, careful. You were all good. I was like, don't die in the class.
Okay, where you
A
want?
little bit more this way. A little bit closer to me. There we go. There's like that little cut of light. You want to make sure you're perfectly jetted. Perfect. You want right off the bat.
What's up?
You can do something like this. Right off the bat. Right. Yes. Perfect. It's like we gotta show up in you. Perfect. And take your arms up. If you want, you can even just grab the jacket. You're just talking about how they grab the jacket. Yep. Pull the jacket forward just a little bit. Perfect. Chin down just a little bit. Excellent. Look off to the side. Yes. Perfect. If you want, you can even kind of pretend to play with your hair or just kind of put your hand up in the back.
Where were your names?
Yeah, there we go. Very casual shots. Perfect. Now look back at me. Excellent. Do you want to put a hand in a pocket? A pocket in the back? Yep, there we go. Perfect. And now do a little bit of a wider stance. Yes, excellent. And pockets, pull them out a little bit so you don't see it. Yeah. Perfect. And look off to the side. Perfect. Now the other side. Perfect. We're going to do one more with arms crossed. And lean towards the lens. So kind of lean with the upper half. Yes. And chin down. Perfect. Excellent. Nicely done. No problem. So not sure how much of that direction you were able to hear because I did have to move a bit further away from the microphone on the laptop, but basically just ran through an arsenal of poses that I usually use for music photography. A lot of the arms crossing, looking from side to side. I like to provide as much of a variety as I possibly can whenever I shoot musicians because my goal is to create enough content for them to be able to last them quite a bit. As you can see, Francesca is changing her outfit, which also allows us to have quite a bit of content because again, we are shooting not just promotional images for them, but a lot of the times we also shoot images for social media, for Facebook, for Instagram, especially during the pandemic when performers were not able to actually perform on stage in concert. Photography becomes even more important in that case because they need to be able to continue to have their fans engaged with them. And the best way to do that is through really high quality images. So we're going to go ahead and shoot Francesca now. You'll be able to watch that different arsenal of poses. Yes.
So I'm going to put it on for some shots, but I have just a black dot, you know.
Perfect.
I really was like, how can I get 6 different outfits in one? And I did it. Okay.
At least as women, that is really good. Like, new top, new top, new top.
Okay, so how far back do you need me to back?
I'll be right about here. Hopefully everyone can see. Perfect.
So are you shooting here up, full body? Both?
Do you want me to start with one?
Because sometimes it's hard for me to.
How about we start with this upper half?
That sounds great, and then we'll go to
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely. So don't worry about your legs.
Okay.
Gorgeous. Can they see where we are? Oh, that's gorgeous. Yes. Perfect. Excellent. Perfect. Excellent. Perfect. I'm going to scoot you just a little bit more back and now a little bit this way because the sun just hit, so we have a little bit more room. A little bit more this way. Yeah, there we go. We don't want any of that in the background. Yes, excellent. Perfect. We're going to do a really close up on your face. Excellent. Yes. Perfect. I love how you're using your hands to bring your face. We got it. You ready for full bodies?
Yeah, let's do some full bodies.
So now let's get back out. That's fine. Right.
Sorry.
You want to do it? We could do the tango. Yeah.
We built the stage.
Okay, we're transcending music genres. Okay.
We are.
Perfect. Excellent. Perfect. I was just about to say, you want to crouch? So for crouching, let's scoot a little bit further back. Yeah, there we go. It's a little hot.
Because sometimes it's
Perfect.
My job was to
Yeah.
gotten better deals on some one than others.
4 hours is all I did was get like wheel up the cable, like go underneath the overshift. We got to the point where I was like on my list,
Perfect.
the bottom.
I know.
Then your leg strength for being able to push yourself up like that. Hold it.
Have to. All right.
Well,
I'm gonna
it's
drop my-
okay. Yep.
It's the same, but with neon again.
Well, it makes a difference. Perfect. I like the neon colors on you.
I think it matches my hair.
It does. Perfect. And these shots are amazing.
I believe you.
That lighting. Just if you want to see a little bit of lighting.
Oh, that's cool.
Other trap will be
But it's part of the vibe.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm gonna do some with it open, and then because it's like a crop top, I'm gonna do some with it closed, and like
you got it. Oh, we didn't actually do any side shots.
no, we didn't.
Perfect. Make sure you're still nicely in frame. Perfect. There, yeah. So we're just doing upper half and lower half. That's so neon, it comes out yellow. Nice. Yes. Hold that. And with your eyeballs on that way. Which way? That way, yeah. Beautiful. Yes. Excellent. That is perfect.
Why is there a bunch of green chicks?
Why is there a bunch of pieces? Okay, full body.
Yes, let's do full bodies. Gonna scoot you back just a wee little bit. Out there. Perfect. And then for the next shots, we might orient on this door.
Sounds good. I like the door a lot, actually.
Yeah. That is the coolest. Oh my god.
Is that not sick? I got this at Ross for $14.
That is the coolest thing. Yes. So full body shots. Yes.
Maybe like an AC powered thing.
Perfect.
Not that you really.
My knees are so ashy.
No, they're
Me too.
also Photoshop.
Love it out here.
Yes.
Actually do.
Perfect. Oh, there's a hood.
I do.
Yes.
I do the things I say. And I get it really.
Crouch. Bouncy back. Big bounce. Yeah. Yes, leg out. Perfect.
We're trying to.
Cheating. Ow, that-
No, I mean, if I had to
And lean over your leg. Yes.
honestly, as my being far to do
Perfect.
I mean, I didn't plan it, whatever. It's just not that. Most people,
Perfect.
most people.
Excellent.
Sweet. We got it.
So I'm
Yay!
gonna give you guys a little bit of a break. But I want you to do that vantage point.
Oh my god, it's
Floor
so
level.
sick. That looks so good.
So we're going to give them a few minutes of a break before we reposition for a slightly different part of this little parking lot for the next set of group shots. But I know I did jump out of camera a little bit because I needed more distance from Francesca. But when she crouched down to the ground and extended her leg, I made sure that she extended her leg towards my lens. And then I actually took the camera and put it on the ground. With this particular camera, I do have an articulating screen, so I just popped it up just like that, put it on the ground, and we shot from ground level just because when I made her stretch her leg out towards me and then she leaned over the front, it created a really, really cool composition. She does work as a professional model as well, so you could probably see that she has quite a bit of experience in posing, so there wasn't a lot of direction that I needed to give. But for most part, my absolute favorite look is from the ground, everything stretched towards you, creates really beautiful lines, especially with a lens like a 35mm. If you're shooting with the Sigma 24 to 70mm 2.8, that's also a beautiful shot when you zoom everything out perfectly to 24mm. So going to go ahead and see if there are any questions while we take a few minute breather for them and then move them over to another spot.
Well, yes, you're getting a few questions on here, and so far it's sounding good and everything's working pretty great, and I can see how much fun you're having with everybody, which is awesome. I'll throw them at you. Are you shooting everything in RAW?
I am not shooting anything in RAW for the purpose of this particular webcam stream, just because I am going to eventually put the photos on the computer and it's going to take way too long to transfer everything if they're in RAW format. So they are in high quality JPEGs. But I also don't foresee that I'm going to do a whole lot of editing on these because the color is already coming out really beautiful straight off the camera.
And are you anticipating for a shoot like this? Normally, I know you're kind of doing it for the students here, but how long of post-production do you usually anticipate on this type of shoot with 5 members of a band?
So what I do is I actually have the band pick out the photos they want me to edit, and that number can range depending on what kind of package they booked. But for the most part, you're going to get approximately 3 to 4 full group shots edited, and then I usually do 1 to 2 shots of each band member, just because usually when they go ahead and they upload everything to social media or post it on their website, everything is nicely cohesive. So band member shots, few group shots. And for post-production, I actually don't edit a whole lot on stuff like this. My workflow is actually to bump everything into Lightroom, do some color grading, and then I go into Photoshop to do any sort of like detailed skin retouching, if that even is necessary. I don't foresee it being necessary here at all. So it would probably only take me maybe under half an hour.
Nice. And the band was Fate Destroyed. Somebody asked that in the
band is Fate Destroyed from Los Angeles. They are a female fronted metal band.
Nice.
Very cool.
What camera are you working with today?
Sony A7R4. Or actually, no, I have the 3 on me. I have the 4 in the trunk.
Nice.
Sony Alpha.
And we had someone ask you, you're using all natural lighting in this case. Do you prefer all natural? Do you like to work with light sometimes? And how do you make that choice, natural lighting or artificial?
So for the studios, of course, I prefer artificial lighting because you're able to control everything. But for natural settings like this, if we have a nice shadowy corner like we do here, then I'll just use natural light because everything is beautifully diffused. We are very lucky with the way that this building is oriented, that it actually is casting this huge shadow as the sun's position is right over there. So I don't actually need any sort of artificial lights. I know that some photographers really like to use strobes even in the shadow areas, just a different kind of look, a different kind of style. I find that my work is a lot softer. So that's why I don't like some of the high contrast that flash can give. However, if I was shooting them in direct sunlight and there was absolutely nothing I can do, I would use some strobes outdoors to make sure that they are nicely filled and they're not getting a lot of those shadows and high contrast leaking into different parts of their faces that you really don't want shadows leaking into.
We had one of the people in the chat made a good point, and from this angle, I could see, you know, what do you look? She asked, he asked, what do you look for when picking a location? I never would have guessed a parking lot with barred windows and a black wooden fence would be a good spot for a shoot. So we're getting our angle on it, but how did you decide on this location, and what is it about it that made you really go, yeah, that's the one?
Absolutely. Well, I do take the genre of music into a factor when I decide on a location, because they are a metal band and they're really into kind of like grunge vibes, industrial. You can kind of tell by the way that they are dressed. I'm looking for locations that exhibit that kind of a vibe, because I am, again, shooting at around f1.2 or so. I am looking exclusively for texture and color. Here we have a black color, which is something that's of course highly favored for music shoots. And we do get a nice little subtle texture, because I'm not sure how clearly you can see this, but it's actually wood that is painted black. So we do have a little bit of that texture that we really like. And for kind of the barbing and whatnot, it also gives you a really nice texture. Although this color of the building is not the coolest color, I do know that with the way that I color grade in post-production, I can modify that color and I can adjust it into whatever tone I really want it to be. Honestly, whenever I find locations, all I do is I take a day out and I just hop in my car and I drive around and I try to find something really cool. This location is something that I've used quite a bit because my family actually owns the business that has this parking lot. So we are able to use that, which is why there should be a disclaimer that whenever you want to use a specific location, make sure you can use it. Look up your laws on what locations are available for you, what locations are actually private property, and you should probably get permission before using.
Yeah, or if you have to lie, just say it's a student project. You didn't hear that from me. But Chris Austria wanted to make sure we say a fan of the band. Please tell the band their music is awesome and Francesca has an incredible voice. Did Anabel shoot the images on their website on this band? Is one question.
Some of them.
And
not all of them.
A really good question here. This band seems pretty comfortable here. If a band isn't sure how to pose, what do you typically recommend for poses, or how do you? Would you say they seem very comfortable in posing?
Yeah.
Some of them more than others.
Yeah, so if you have a band that is brand new to it, or they're not too comfy in front of the camera, I do study different kinds of poses that I can offer. As you saw with the bass guitar, there were a bunch of different poses we do. I actually do endorsement photos for a guitar company, so we were able to go through the kind of the typical arsenal of poses for guitars, a lot of it being point it towards the camera, put it on the shoulders, put it on the feet, hold it this way, push it forward. And if you don't have an instrument, some of the typical poses for men are crossing the arms to make sure that you give them something to do, because you don't want arms just flat down like that. Put it in a pocket if they have a back pocket, or a pocket on their jacket if they're holding a jacket. Have them interact with it by kind of grabbing it, play with their hair a little bit, similar to kind of GQ model posing, if anyone even remembers that magazine. I do actually look through fashion magazines, I look through modeling books, and I look through all sorts of different kind of reference material for poses. Once you start kind of memorizing a lot of those poses and knowing how they shoot and utilizing them, it makes it a lot easier. Plus, I am of the philosophy that, yes, it is important the way that your subject poses, but the photographer as well is really important in that equation, and making sure that however they pose looks flattering for them. So I probably jumped out of frame a little too many times while I was doing this, but what you may not have seen is that I am constantly changing my own posing in terms of how I'm going to shoot them. I move forward, I go back, I shoot from down below, I shoot from the side, I shoot from the other side. Primary things you always want to remember is chins up, because you don't want them to be sunken in like this, so chins up. And that's really how it goes.
Nice.
Pardon me.
I liked one of the guys there said, the quicker I get it done, the quicker I don't have to do it.
Yeah, not everyone likes it. It's just how it goes.
Very, very wise words. That's very good. Well, one last one, and then we'll let you do it. I have never shot someone as heavily tatted or colorful as a drummer is. Is there a trick to balancing the tats with the untouched skin? I guess in skin tone balancing color.
I mean, A lot of that also comes from your exposure. I try to expose tattoos down a little bit because you do want the ink, especially if they're really black heavy tattoos, to be very, very black. Because if it starts to get a little gray, unless it's a shading part, it usually means that the tattoo is a little faded out. So if it does become gray, I actually go into Photoshop and I do darken that part. But otherwise, it doesn't actually affect my exposure that much unless they're in direct sunlight. Again, we were shooting in the shade, which provides a very, very even, easy to expose lighting. It's kind of akin to, say, an overcast day or shooting in a studio where you are able to put a diffuser on the lights. So in my opinion, it has really impacted me in terms of exposing for skin or balancing any of that out. It kind of comes out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that's about all for the questions at the moment, and we will ask more during the editing, the post production as well. And feel free to ask more in the chat. We'll hit up Anabel again as she goes.
Perfect. I'm gonna try and turn this around so you can see that door. Everyone can see that door because that's where we're gonna orient towards.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. I can just pull them back out. Oh, thank you. Oh, do you want to wear it for the next?
No, it's okay. I'm just thinking. So what are we doing the next?
Orient around the door.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll resume to our regularly scheduled broadcast shortly.
Group shot or? Okay. Cameron. Oh. Happy birthday. Was your birthday like last week?
Oh, March 3rd. What even is a birthday in nowadays? Yeah.
I heard you moved to Vegas.
I am.
What are the drummers that auditioned you left?
Levi, yeah.
He's cool. It like came down to him.
Yeah. No way to remind stuff, I think.
Nowadays.
Nowadays, yeah. Perfect. So slacking on this job. Perfect. Let's see how much towards the door we can get without getting into it.
I don't care.
Oh, geez.
I should have slept.
It's okay.
Oh,
I like how
good.
you presented the keys to me. You're just like, please.
Please, so can you take, or please, ma'am, can
You
you
have
take
so
all
many
the
keys on here. You probably keys and Arnie on here too.
He is a janitor. Johnny's a janitor.
I'm not.
You're so
It's okay. I have a bunch of keys.
So he's all.
The Narnia?
I'm not a janitor. Have you seen my house?
Janitor.
That's what you call her, my dear. You guys squish
You actually
again.
haven't seen my house yet.
Yes, you guys squish.
Look more, Johnny.
Yes. You're gonna
You
see
slow
more
squish.
teeny bit back. So your shoulder comes out a little bit more. There we go.
We're just throwing bows, just fucking free for all. Should we just start moshing right now?
Yeah. I mean, you're on open.
Johnny.
All right. Perfect. I really, really like the texture of that door. It looks super cool. So let me readjust these settings. Make sure everyone is nicely in focus. Perfect. Actually, what if you put your leg up a little bit? Yeah, it's kind of cool. Perfect. These are full bodies for now. Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Yes. Love. Yes. Excellent. And now we're going to stand at back to speed level. So we do just here up. Okay. So don't worry about your beats.
The second. Pull my foot all the way.
Perfect. Yes. Excellent. Perfect. Now I have the idea. Should we do some groupings? Guitars together.
Yeah, we can do that.
Drummer together.
Sure.
So I'm gonna let them know. We're gonna do some groupings now. So we're gonna group the guitarists together. We're gonna group the basses and the drummer together, just for a little bit of variety, just to do something a little bit different. Perfect. These guys would be Perfect. What if we have you guys closer to the door? So again, might have you hook your foot up on there. Maybe you can hook your foot.
Are you some solo shots at the door?
Yes. There we go.
No, it's part of their fence.
I was like, be careful that you don't need to hit the shot after.
Johnny is a walking tennis shot.
Perfect. And then we can go to the floor.
That'd be cool, actually. Your finger like that.
That looks really cool.
I never get to put middle fingers in photos, but I used to hear about that, but now I'm gonna do it.
Perfect. Yes. And now both of you lean towards me as much as you can without falling over.
Their legs still up.
Can't do it with the leg up.
You can put this down.
Is that
Yeah.
a soccer team pose?
Excellent. Perfect. You want to go back to back?
Sure.
The dream team.
Yes.
Remember the awkward.
I like it.
Chin.
Nailed it. Next up.
Yeah, do the drums and the bass.
Afterwards, you go, should have run over.
I'll do both.
You can literally take.
Now we're all stocked, ready to start our own.
Perfect. A little bit more this way because that door is.
Should I
I want to do a
Yeah.
solo thing, but not ever show your face and not ever really even go in. You know, they're just like, oh my.
There's a spot for your foot right there. Yes.
But,
There we go.
but it's gonna be, I want to get your top like where's that from? I
Excellent.
don't feel like I feel like fingerprints like giant like.
Yes.
I wanna make, like,
Yeah, keep interacting with us.
I'm not gonna like. I'm not gonna like.
Perfect.
Videos or anything. It's literally just gonna. Exactly. Just put it up.
Easy peasy. Yes, I like the crouching down. Perfect. Excellent.
Good.
We nailed it.
Tight.
Whoop.
I know this was very demanding.
You end up in your solo.
That's good.
And then we'll get solos on there too.
What?
Now you get to get your solo shots. You have no one to pair up with.
Good.
Good.
Fuck them. Hate this band.
Get one moment to finish writing everything. Perfect. These shots are so sick. Ready? Perfect. Yes.
What?
Perfect. Perfect. That looks good. We just need to go on a photography adventure one day, find a random spot and just wander around.
Yeah.
Yes. Like that. Perfect. Awesome. Perfect.
Sick.
You got it. Woo! So CT want their solos on this door too.
Guys, do any of you want solos on the door? Okay, if not, just need to know.
Yep.
I'm good.
Okay.
Perfect.
I've done.
So what we did there was we really interacted with the environment that we were shooting in. We found that the wall fencing is actually sturdy enough to hold them. So we used that as a posing tool, as well as that I shot right on the very side of that so that you can actually have a lot of leading lines coming from that fence towards them. So when you look at the shots, the viewer just immediately goes right to the band because all those lines are leading them nicely in. I really like the lines of the door and the texture of the door. It turned out to be a really cool prop that we found there. There are quite a few band shoots that I do that I call wandering shoots, where we actually find a specific spot and then we wander around that area and shoot anything cool that we have within that zone. It's a fun way to get a lot of variety, especially to get a lot of social media content for them. Now, we've pretty much finished up on the shooting portion. I'm going to call them over to say bye, and then I'm going to go ahead and start loading everything onto the computer to show you what we got.